Okay, everybody, welcome back to The Right Call. I know it's been too long for Cole and I to be in studio. Cole, how the heck are you?
I'm pretty good today. I'm pretty good. A solid day, interesting day at the trade deadline. So how about you?
Cole, I'm good. I just have to say, I know you had begun your solo podcasting career, so I appreciate you gracing my presence and joining your old man here for the podcast of The Right Call.
Of course. I mean, Fantasyland is doing pretty well, but I guess I had to share my knowledge with another podcast.
All right, so Cole, I want to start out today. We have so much to talk about. We're going to talk about the state of the Celtics. We can talk about the Patriots, Bruins. We can do a brief postmortem on the Red Sox. But Cole, I have a wish that I'm like in Aladdin where the genie grants three wishes. I have a wish. My wish is I want to see Tony Romo and Brian Scalabrine do a game, a broadcast together. Because what I want to see happen is I want it to be like 2 minutes left to go in the game, in an NFL game. The team with the ball has it fourth down. They have no timeouts left, and they need to score. And I want to hear Tony Romo say, Jim, this is a big play right here.
Yeah.
And then Scal will say, oh, it's a really big play. I mean, those two guys say the most inane, obvious, non-helpful comments. Am I right?
I mean, I guess, but I would just like to, first of all, I would like to call a foul for you turning down my mic. Now I can barely hear myself. So
it's going off the charts. What do you want
are you
from me?
silencing me?
No, I'm not. You're still loud.
Are you silencing my voice?
You're
okay.
still loud.
Okay. But Brian Scalabrine and Tony Romo are the two kind of announcers where they're such homers, Tony Romo for the Cowboys and Brian Scalabrine for the Celtics, that say that someone was in the end zone, wide open, they dropped a pass, Brian Scalabrine would go nuts calling a penalty. Like, he just over-exaggerates everything for his own team.
He does. All right, so with that said, Cole, let's actually do a brief, before we get into the state of the Celtics, let's just do a quick recap of the Red Sox and kind of a post-mortem. My take on the Red Sox, Cole, is I felt like when they beat the Yankees in the wild card, I was happy. Like, did I want them to go to the World Series and win the World Series? Of course I did. Did I feel like they were good enough? I didn't. The Red Sox, for the better half, for the second half of the season, the playoffs, they went as their bullpen went. When their bullpen performed, they won. When they didn't, they lost. So my thing was, my only regret with the Red Sox this season is I feel like they've got some really good building blocks. They've got some great young pitchers in Nick Pivetta and Tanner Houck and Garrett Whitlock. I think even offensively, I think you're in pretty good hands. Bobby Dahlbeck has some promise. Maybe you have Kyle Schwarber come back. But this is my only gripe. Alex Cora, a great job overall managing the year. But the last three games, he was a train wreck. Like, he overthought, overanalyzed, and made some really poor analytical decisions. And I don't know what happened to him.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, you were at Game 5 together, and we saw him keep Evaldi in that last. No. Who am I thinking about? It's not Evaldi. It was Sale. They kept Sale in an extra inning, and me and you were talking like, oh, I think they should take him out. He's had a great performance. Maybe he can carry this on if the Red Sox go to the World Series. Maybe he can bring this momentum with him. And I look up at the Jumbotron, and it still says Sale. And I pointed, I looked at my dad, and I pointed, and we both had the feeling that this wasn't going to go well.
Well, not to mention that analytics all over baseball say don't let a guy go 3 times through the order. Sale hadn't even come close to pitch that many innings in his previous several starts. He'd been horrible. And third, they let him pitch to Yordan Alvarez, who was teeing off him in that game, and it was so comfortable. So all the decisions just made no sense.
Yordan Alvarez in that game was so dominant.
It's filthy.
He was ridiculous. He had 2 doubles, a single, and a homer. And he's just such a, I mean, he's a great pickup for the Astros this year. Amazing rookie talent in the MLB, and he honestly, going to a game and watching him, he has the chance to be one of the great stars in the league by next year.
Okay, and then the final comment on the Red Sox is, I think one of the biggest mysteries in the Red Sox season is what the heck happened to Matt Barnes after the All-Star break. I mean, he was one of the best pitchers in baseball in the first half and one of the worst in the second half. It just made no sense. I mean, the guy just forgot how to pitch.
Agreed. I don't know what happened. I mean, I remember watching about the All-Star game. Looked like he was having so much fun. Maybe it got to his head. I think that may have been what happened. It got to his head, and then he really lost focus. And that's happened to him before. He's really gone through great stretches. Why are you smiling?
I think they ought to take him out to the back of the barns and shoot him.
No.
Shoot him.
No.
Take him out to the back of the barns.
No.
All right.
There's a place and time for dad jokes, and this isn't the place.
All right. Well, let's talk about the Celtics because, listen, in the last couple of days, I've been on the verge of just stopping everything I'm doing and coming down and doing a podcast because it's so painful. Cole, this is where I want to start with the Celtics. We talked about the general manager. We've talked about the coach. We've talked about not enough shooters. We've talked about not enough bench. It's time to talk about the root cause, which is your two superstars don't play like superstars. They don't have the same they don't have a sense of urgency. They haven't. They're soft. Jayson Tatum, I've been saying for a long time, when he's not having a good shooting night, he doesn't contribute in other statistical areas. Both of them are capable of playing good defense when they put their mind to it, but that is extremely inconsistent. So before we get to anything else, is it time to consider? You've been a proponent. You've said you feel strongly that Brown is better than Tatum.
Brown is better than Tatum, no doubt in my mind.
So are you saying you would trade, if you were going to trade one of the two and break up this group, you would trade Tatum over Brown?
Absolutely. Jaylen Brown is showing me something that I've never seen before from him.
Which is what?
Jaylen Brown used to be the kind of guy to put up 25, 2, and 2. Like now he's putting up, last night he had 28, 7, and 4. What are you smiling about?
I thought you were going to say he's now doing 3 and 3 because I don't see he's doing that much more.
No, he's putting up 7 and 3. A few nights ago he put up 8 and 5. So that's all I'm saying. I mean, he's transformed.
You're easily rattled.
I'm gonna lose my mind.
I got you rattled.
You do got me rattled.
All right, go ahead.
But Jaylen Brown is really changing the kind of player he is. And you know what? You go.
I'm listening to you.
Jaylen Brown is really changing the kind of player he is.
Yep.
I don't really see any progressions from Jayson Tatum. I mean, Jayson Tatum's obviously a talented scorer from the outside, but I'm yet to see him start driving consistently. I'm yet to see him hustle back on defense consistently. I'm yet to see him play with any heart. I don't think I've seen Jayson Tatum, Jaylen Brown, yes, but Jayson Tatum, I don't think I've seen him like pump his fist or get mad more than once or twice during his tenure on the Celtics.
Well, and I got to tell you, there is, you may not be old enough to know this, but there is a long time history and precedent of players that come from Duke being soft.
Yep.
I mean, there have been a lot of them. Elton Brand was soft. Christian Laettner was soft. Kyrie Irving, I mean, he's soft in a different way. And Jayson Tatum, you know, they talked in the offseason. You can see he bulked up physically. He's not playing any tougher or more physically. As a matter of fact, one of the few things that Scalabrine said that I actually agreed with is he talked about how the NBA has changed the way they're officiating games this year.
Which I like.
Which I like too. It is more physical, and there aren't these ticky-tack fouls anymore, which is so great. And how the Celtics not only haven't adjusted, but I don't think Tatum and Brown even have the makeup to adjust.
Brown, I really think Brown gets a lack of disrespect. I mean, Jaylen Brown is...
Well, if it was a lack of disrespect, that means it would be the opposite, because that's two negatives.
I'm done with you. This is like the sixth time this podcast.
I'm just saying, it's two negatives.
The lack of respect.
Okay.
Is that better?
Yes.
Great. The lack of respect that Jaylen Brown gets is just pretty ridiculous because Jaylen Brown has always consistently put up the numbers. He's never been considered as one of the top stars in the NBA, and it's time that we consider him as
Well, why would you say that? I think he's absolutely considered one of the top stars. Do you think he's considered one of the top 25 to 30 players in the league?
I don't.
He is because, okay, wait a minute now.
I think he's a top 10 player, but I don't.
Well, he's not a top 10 player.
Do you think Jayson Tatum's a top 10 player?
No. Nope.
Okay. Do you think Jayson Tatum's top 15?
No, I want you to think about it this way, seriously. I forget how many teams. I think there's 30 teams in the NBA. I'm not sure exactly how many
31.
teams. Okay, so let's just say there's 30 or 31 teams in the NBA, okay? So if you take the best player on every team, that's your top 30 players, right? If each team you lobbied for their best player. So the question is Jaylen Brown better than any NBA team's best player?
Absolutely.
Well, I think in Detroit, he's better than Detroit's best player. He's better than Sacramento. I mean, Sacramento's best player, I would imagine, is De'Aaron Fox. Detroit's best player is who?
Detroit's best player.
Jeremy Grant?
Probably.
So he's probably better than Detroit's best player. He's probably better than Sacramento's best player. But I mean, if you go through all
He's better than DeMar DeRozan. He's better than who's on the Knicks. He's better than Kemba Walker.
Is he better than Zach Irvine or Zach
LaVine?
LaVine, excuse me.
Yes, he's better than Zach LaVine.
Okay, but not by a ton.
He's better than. I'd rather have Jaylen Brown than Zion.
No.
I'd rather have Jaylen Brown than LaMelo Ball. Actually, no, I wouldn't. But Zion, yes.
But here's my point, right? When you talk about Jaylen Brown or Jayson Tatum in the top 30, you could maybe make an argument for some of the guys you're saying. I'm not saying that. But the bottom line is, when you talk about top 2 players to win an NBA title, for the last several years, we've been sold a bill of goods that Jayson Tatum and Jaylen Brown, once they get those complementary parts, are going to help you win a title. They had those complementary parts in Gordon Hayward, Kemba Walker, Kyrie Irving, Al Horford. They've had 4 complementary parts. Now, I know Hayward got injured and Walker got injured and Irving's a nutcase. I get all that. But the point I'm trying to say is that even when you get the complementary parts, what player, Cole, in the NBA wants to come play with these 2 guys? These 2 guys who are soft, don't know how to win. They're not young anymore. They've been in the league a while. They're not young. They're veteran players now, okay? So would you want to come play if you were an elite player in the NBA? If you're Bradley Beal, now think about this for a second. Now, I know he and Jayson Tatum are best friends, so that may be the reason Bradley Beal would be willing to come here. But otherwise, why would you come play on the Celtics? Why would you want to? It's a cold weather destination to boot. Why would you want to play here?
Because Boston's such an iconic city. I mean, Boston has such a history of winning all the time that a lot of people would want to come play here. I think the reason that a lot of people didn't want to come play here is because of the fans.
What about them?
The fans are terrible here. The fans, no matter...
Shall we call this Ben Simmons syndrome because he can't take the fans in Philadelphia and he melts down?
No. One good thing happens, they give him a little bit of respect. One bad thing happens, it's like the whole Bill Buckner thing.
Hey, listen.
No. Bill Buckner was a great first baseman for a long time. He makes one error, there's his career. Okay, that's what he's known for.
Well, wait a minute. You're shifting the narrative. He made one error. It cost them a potential 86-year ending World Series drought.
Yeah, well, I was in a championship game in
Or I should say 67.
I was in a championship game in 4th grade when one of my friends made an error at shortstop, and I don't remember that to this day.
I hope you're not friends with that person
I am
anymore.
very good friends with that person.
I would not be.
I am very good friends with this person.
No, so here's the thing I want to say to your point, because I understand what you're saying. If you play in New York, Philadelphia, or Boston, that you are in a culture. You're in blue-collar, workman-like cities that value work ethic and commitment. So if you don't play up to your potential, you don't play up to standards, you're going to get booed. You're not going to be accepted. That's just what happens when you play in the Northeast. So here's the thing, right? Marcus Smart comes out today and says that Jaylen Brown and Jayson Tatum have to pass more. But what was interesting about his comment, Cole, is he said, talk about reading between the lines, is he said, quote unquote, we have been telling Jayson Tatum and Jaylen Brown they need to pass more. Who's we? Meaning you and the coach, Ime Udoka? You, because you're the last person that should be commenting on passing because you lead the league in stupid shots. Marcus Smart is a prime example of what I call the Jay Crowder syndrome. So a guy that comes to the Celtics, and he builds his reputation on defense and hard work, but then in the Celtics system, all they want to do is sling threes, and they forget what got them into the NBA in the first place. Marcus Smart, he's all about toughness and defense, but he's so focused on offense, he makes plays defensively sometime. But Cole, this nucleus doesn't work. Somebody has to go. At least one person has to go, whether it's Brown and Smart, Tatum and Smart, Robert Williams and Smart. Has to go.
We're not trading Robert Williams. He's an elite talent. He's developing. If one person has to go, I'm picking Tatum and Smart. If you smile again, I'm going to lose my marbles.
I'm just recognizing your point.
No. I've been with you for 15 years, and I can recognize when you're about to make either a snarky comment.
No, I'm not.
You're thinking about something funny, or you're looking at your phone.
I default to humor.
Oh, you default to humor? Okay.
Yep. Okay, so one last thing. I want to talk about the Celtics bench. Peyton Pritchard, Aaron Nesmith don't even get off the bench. Ime Udoka has such little confidence in those 2 first-round picks that he plays these guys until they drop because he's so unconfident. Romeo Langford can't stay healthy for a quarter. Once again, the Celtics have no bench. And this is the final point I want to make about the Celtics. Cole, am I right when I say the NBA in today's game is about shooters? You can't win unless you have consistent shooters that can knock shots down. And I will say this much in Jaylen Brown and Jayson Tatum's defense. As much as I don't think they've grown and are evolving into what we hoped, I'll tell you what, based on the way the Celtics' other players, the consistency they hit shots, I don't think I'd want to pass to them that often too, because the Celtics' options to aside from them to shoot are horrible.
Yeah.
Horrible.
Agreed. They're not bad. They're not good at all.
So I don't know where this leaves us, but
the Celtics, I know where it leaves us. The Celtics are an atrocious team. They're in a rebuilding stage. They're in a rebuilding stage. They're going to be terrible this year. They're not going to make the playoffs. I can see them being
playoffs.
Playoffs. I can see them being good in a few years, but this year I don't think is their year. For sure, it's not their year. Next year, it's not going to be. They're not going to. It's not going to be their year until a big change is made in that organization.
All right, Cole. Let's shift to the Pats. So
finally, something positive.
Yeah, something positive. So here's the thing about the Patriots. Going into this last game against the Chargers, obviously, no one was feeling good about the team. I know they scored 54 points on the Jets, but you and I could have scored 54 points on the Jets. Although the Jets come out and knock off the Bengals the following week, and who saw that one coming?
I know that was a pretty interesting win.
So here's my thing about the Pats, Cole. What are your expectations this season, from this point forward, about the Patriots, knowing that 3 of their 4 wins are against the Jets and the Texans? Okay? They don't have very many soft games left on their schedule. So my question is, from this point forward, after seeing the big win against the Chargers, give me their final record in a 17-game season from 4-4 right now, and why?
I'd go 11-6.
So they're going to go 7-2 the rest of the way. They're going to only lose 2 games. By the way, they play Buffalo twice. They play Indianapolis. They play Cleveland.
Okay, Indianapolis
they play Tennessee.
Stinks. Indianapolis stinks. Cleveland stinks.
Indy's on the road.
It doesn't matter. I'd rather go into Lucas Oil than...
Okay, so let's just do those 5 games. The 2 against Buffalo, Indy on the road, Cleveland, and Tennessee. What are the record in those 5 games?
Tennessee, they win. With Derrick Henry out, Tennessee's
just tell me.
stink.
Don't break it down by game. Those 5 wins. 5 games? What's their record in those 5 games?
4-1.
Okay, so they're going to take 4 of those 5, and let's assume they lose 1 to Buffalo because they're not going to sweep Buffalo. So that means they're going to sweep Cleveland, Tennessee, and Indianapolis. They're going to win all 3 of those.
Absolutely. Even though their offense hasn't been great, their defense has been monstrous. So if their defense can stay stud, but against bad offenses like Indy and Tennessee and bad offense this year, Cleveland.
Well,
and bad reports by the minute are coming out about Baker Mayfield again with his torn labrum. Did you see what he did when he got hit? He got hit. He gets up, pumps his fist.
Baker Mayfield sucks.
Not real life.
With a healthy labrum or a torn labrum, he sucks.
Not real life.
Okay, so just so you know, if they go 4-1 like you're predicting, their other 3 games are against Jacksonville, Miami, and Atlanta on a Thursday night short week. So we would expect them to win those 3 games. So assuming they win those 3 games and they go 4-1, now you're saying they're going to go 7-1 the rest of the way, and they're going to finish 11-5.
11-6 because there's 17 games.
Oh, right, 11-6. I'm forgetting a team. Right, 11-6. So you think they're going to go 11-6? Okay, I think they're going to go 10-7. I think they're going to lose a game we're not expecting them to lose. And look, when you look at the Patriots' talent, one thing hasn't changed. I like Mac Jones. They tried to get him to go downfield last week, and he didn't have a great game. Cole, why can't Patriots fans get a clue about this? The Patriots' weapons suck. They've got one red zone threat in Hunter Henry. There's nobody else that's a reliable red zone threat besides Hunter Henry. They have not a number 1 receiver, and they don't have a number 2 receiver. Nelson Aguilar, on his best day, is an occasional number 2 receiver at best. So when people are wondering why Mac Jones, who has gotten horrible pass protection up until this week, he has no red zone weapons, he has no deep threats, and people want to wonder why Mac Jones doesn't play as well at some point, like, get over it. Like, what are you talking about?
You just wait until Matthew Slater comes off that special teams.
Great call.
You just wait.
That's the right call. That's about where they're at.
His breakout year is coming.
Listen.
It's upon us.
Listen, it's why Tom Brady didn't want to be here anymore. He was sick and tired of the garbage offensive weapons that Belichick put in front of him. And look at Jacoby Myers, Kendrick Bourne. Those guys are fine. Like as a number 3, 4 type receivers, they're fine. I even like Kendrick Bourne. He's not bad. N'Keal Harry's even played his way up to be a number 4 receiver. But at the end of the day, Jonnu Smith's been a big disappointment. Hunter Henry, yeah, he's been a good red zone threat, but hasn't lived up to what you expected. Nelson Aguilar has been an abhorrent disappointment. I mean, how come Bill Belichick gets a free pass on this call? How come, we're talking about his coaching ability. The last few years as a general manager, he has flat out sucked.
That is I have to disagree majorly with you there.
Okay.
I just think that you got to let Bill Belichick do his thing. When's the last time when the Patriots won their 3 Super Bowls, not in the early 2000s, but in 2014, 2016, 2018, besides Edelman and Gronk, they had no weapons. Who did they have? Chris Hogan?
They had Randy Moss.
No, I was talking about 2014, 2016, 2018. Who did they have besides Gronk and Edelman? Tell me.
Yeah, they didn't have much. But Gronk and Edelman were really good weapons. You make it seem like that doesn't count.
First of all, Gronk wasn't very good in 2016 or 2018 in the Super Bowl. Gronk didn't even play in 2018.
But buddy, but Edelman and Gronk were 2 good weapons on the roster. I mean, and here's another thing. Before anybody emails us or comments on the podcast, listen, Mac Jones looks like the real deal. I'm not pronouncing him the next Tom Brady by any stretch, but Mac Jones looks poised. He looks comfortable. He's a sponge. So every Patriot fan should be feeling good about Mac Jones. And I also will give Belichick credit for the Matthew Judon signing because he's been a beast. So I will say that if Belichick had to only hit one, it would have been his drafting of Mac Jones. But I will also say that the jury's out on Justin Fields. He finally had a good game, but he's young. The jury's still out on Trey Lance. He hasn't been able to play enough.
Trey Lance is bananas.
The only quarterback right now that I can say clear cut is better is Zach Wilson. I mean, I would rather have Mac Jones than what I've seen of Zach Wilson. But even that, it's his first year. How much can you really assess in the NFL in a guy's first year?
A lot. You see these guys like Justin Jefferson and Jamar Chase this year, and Najee Harris and Clyde Edwards-Helaire.
Is it Najee? I mean, I still am struggling with this. Is it?
Are we going to do the Darrell Henderson thing again?
Okay, go ahead.
Najee Harris.
Okay. It might have been Najee. I wasn't sure.
You can already tell that he's being so involved in that offense.
But a running back's different than a quarterback, though.
Disagree.
Well, no, we're talking about quarterback first year in the NFL.
I honestly think being a wide receiver or running back can be tougher because you're adjusting to different styles of defenses.
No way.
As a wide receiver, Justin Jefferson.
Come on.
As a deep threat, you got to adjust to the defense.
The quarterback position's the hardest position.
It is the hardest position, but I don't think it's the hardest position. Honestly, the hardest position to adjust to, in my mind, would be cornerback because you're going from stinky college receivers who got scholarships because they grew up in this rich household versus. Then now you're covering the Justin Jeffersons and the Stephon Diggs and the Cooper Kupps of the world. Like, that's a huge adjustment. By the way, Cooper Kupp, best receiver in the history of the NFL.
I do want to comment that Cole actually got a gift. We should have put that on the set. We're going to do that next time, Cole. Cole has an actual Cooper Kupp. He has a Cooper Kupp.
Cooper Kupp cup.
A Cooper Kupp cup.
And I would actually just like to do a tribute really quick.
To Mike Badgley?
No. Let's do a tribute really quick to the injured Rodrigo Blankenship. I mean,
you can't wear the. You know what? You should hold those glasses sideways because he's injured.
No.
Until he actually comes back. I think you should have to have them
never
sideways.
Turn over the Blankenship flag. Rodrigo Blankenship, borderline the most handsome man on earth. He should be on Sports Illustrated. I just miss him. He's a great guy. He was the life and blood of my team, and had to cut him.
All right, Cole, let's finish with some fantasy tips for our listeners.
Oh, you're on this podcast. I thought this was only for fantasy land.
No, I'm just going to, Cole, I want to ask you, we're going to approach this differently. We're going to pick For quarterback, running back, wide receiver, tight end, let's wrap up in rapid fire. Who's the dark horse guy that's not obvious that if you were to trade for someone right now at quarterback in fantasy, you would say for the rest of the way, finish this sentence, I would love to have this guy?
I would love to have Tua Tagovailoa.
Cole, I swear to God, I was going to say the same thing. I got to tell you, Tua is so underrated in this regard. He's still learning how to be a great NFL quarterback, but the guy puts up points. He finds a way to put up points. And if Will Fuller can ever recover from his Band-Aid injured finger, with Parker and Jalen Waddle looks like the real deal. Gesicki has been a monster this year. He's got good weapons around him. They don't have much of a running game, which I think also helps Tua because they pass more because they don't have much of a running game and because they're trailing most of the time. So we agree Tua's probably the guy.
Yes, and I would actually like to add one more person real quick. Sorry for the interruption, but Patrick Mahomes, for all of you buffoons that are out there underrating Pat Mahomes because he had 2 bad games, get over yourself. He's Patrick Mahomes. He's the most elite quarterback in the NFL by a long shot. So let's temper the but also go buy him low if you can because he's gonna be putting up QB1 numbers the rest of the year.
All right, let's talk about running backs, Cole. For running back, who would you have? Who do you like for the rest of the way at running back?
I don't know. I'm gonna let you go first on this one. You kind of put me on the spur of the moment, you know.
Well, I think here's the thing with running backs. You know, Austin Eckler to me is everything filters through Austin Eckler. And I thought the Patriots did a really good job against Austin Eckler this past week, which I think really, I think they confused Justin Herbert, but I think by not letting everything run through Eckler. So I still think Eckler's going to be the monster guy that he's been in the first half of the season. Dalvin Cook, you know, running backs are so fragile. Like there's so few around, but I think Austin Eckler would be the guy. And I would also add one more name. And I think what it comes down to is Joe Mixon. The Bengals really, despite their horrible effort against the Jets this past week, that offense is looking really tough. Jamar Chase, Tyler Boyd, T. Higgins. Mixon is not going to have guys stacked at the line of scrimmage like it's been the last few years. So I like Mixon. I think Mixon's going to continue to produce for the rest of the way.
I totally agree. I mean, I love Joe Mixon the rest of the year. But my main guy the rest of the year that I think has been underrated for the last 2 years in fantasy, DeAndre Swift. I think DeAndre Swift, terrible rushing. If there was no if you're in a non-PPR league, he's atrocious. He's terrible. But in a PPR league where you get points for receptions and yardage, he's a top 5 running back. I mean, he is so solid that he's getting better every week. I mean, he had a rough week this week, but seeing Jamal Williams getting trade rumors, I know the trade deadline just hit, but that makes me think that they're really, really, really trusting DeAndre Swift to take the helm there. So I think DeAndre Swift ends as RB4 or RB5. I love DeAndre Swift. He's just such an elite talent at the position.
Okay. And let's talk about wide receiver. So anybody stick out to you as wide receiver, kind of a dark horse who's been so-so but should emerge the rest of the way?
Well, I'm an expert on this one. My fantasy team has about 96 elite wide receivers, but one guy that
How humble of you.
I know. Thank you. I appreciate it.
You're welcome.
Much appreciated. One guy that I really liked the rest of the season, to be honest, and we discussed him, you mentioned him earlier, was Jalen Waddle. Jalen Waddle, he's eating targets. Eating them. He's 33 targets in the past 3 weeks. He's averaging 11 targets if you can do some simple math. But Jalen Waddle, he's getting the yardage, he's getting the targets. It's only time when he puts it together. Him and Tua form that Matthew Stafford and Cooper Kupp connection. So Jalen Waddle, honestly, I think finishes as a top 15 receiver in my mind.
All right, and I'm going to give you 3 quick names. First, Terry McLaurin. Terry McLaurin is a guy that has struggled immensely because Logan Thomas got hurt, Curtis Samuel's been hurt and almost always hurt, and they just don't have any other dynamic weapons. Antonio Gibson's been a huge disappointment. Logan Thomas is on the verge of the return. The Washington football team is on bye. A good chance Curtis Samuel comes back after the bye. If Samuel and Logan Thomas get on the field flanking McLaurin, that's going to help him a lot in the second half. And the other 2 guys under the radar, one is Rashad Bateman, who started to play well. And the difference now is Lamar Jackson has become an excellent passing quarterback this year. And with Marquise Brown and Mark Andrews, Rashad Bateman's going to get a lot of opportunities in that offense. And the last one, Cole and I were talking about this earlier. Not many people are talking about Nico Collins on the Houston Texans. I know that people are going to say, well, the Texans' offense sucks, but Tyrod Taylor is about to come back. And Tyrod Taylor was doing great before he got hurt. And as a number 2 guy on the Texans, look, all he has to do is really pass Chris Conley and Danny Amendola, so that's not much of a standard to pass. So I think Nico Collins could be a steady, if you're in a PPR league, I think Nico Collins could be a steady 10 to 15 point producer for the rest of the way. So those are my wide receivers.
I actually have one guy I want to add that I would actually stay away from, and you are not gonna like this one, but this is my opinion. Chris Godwin sucks. He's so bad.
Good Godwin.
He is so atrocious that Tampa offense, if your name isn't Tom Brady or Mike Evans, you're unreliable. When you don't know what you're getting from Gronk each week. Actually, yeah, you know what you're getting from Gronk each week. It's a slip disc. You from Chris Godwin.
That was really funny. I like that.
From Gronk, you're getting a slip disc. From Godwin, you're getting an inconsistent performance. You don't know what you're getting from guys like Scotty Miller. I mean, Scotty Miller's, although he's not a big fantasy contributor.
First of all, why is Scotty Miller being mentioned on the right
Scotty Miller
call?
Gets a few targets here and there.
That's the wrong call.
But you don't know what you're getting from Leonard Fournette or Ronald Jones. That just if you're not Mike Evans or Tom Brady, that offense is so unreliable. And same thing with Robert Woods. If your name isn't Matthew Stafford or Cooper Kupp, stay away from anyone on that Rams offense.
Okay. We got to cut this off because we're running out of time. So Cole, final take on the show.
Is it because you didn't like my Chris Godwin take?
No, it was just too much Tampa Bay talk. So Cole, final right call on the day. Here's my final call on the show.
We didn't do tight ends.
Well, we don't have enough time to do tight ends. Jayson Tatum. My final right call is this. I am now calling him the human goalpost because when Jayson Tatum, every time he doesn't get a call and he's a crybaby, he goes up the court and raises his arms to the referee like a goalpost. So I don't know if he's trying to be a referee to signal a field goal or what he's doing, but he is such a whiner and a complainer. He is now called the human goalpost. What's your final take?
My final take on everything we talked about today is the Red Sox are going to be a top 5 team in the MLB next year. The Celtics suck. The Bruins are amazing. And Chris Godwin sucks. Thanks for having me.
All right. Well, that's it for another edition of The Right Call for Cole Rodrigo Blankenship Altman and for the Algae Crumplers, Mark Altman. We'll see you next time.